The educational materials presented here were developed by students and faculty of the Department of Food Science and Human Nutrition at Iowa State University. Funding for this project was provided by grants from the American Cancer Society Midwest and the Lance Armstrong Foundation. The materials are intended for educational use and are not meant to provide medical advice. We welcome your feedback about these materials. Please use the evaluation survey link on the homepage to provide your comments and suggestions.
Healthy habits build healthy children. This presentation will cover food choices in children, encouraging healthy habits, and engaging children in meal preparation. Throughout this presentation, I will refer to a healthy diet. My definition will be according to the USDA's guidelines of My Pyramid. My Pyramid is a resource which advocates ways to promote dietary guidelines for the public. A healthy diet includes lots of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, fat-free or low-fat milk and milk products, lean meats, poultry, fish, beans, eggs, and nuts. A healthy diet is also low in saturated fats, trans fats, cholesterol, sodium, and added sugars. To explain more about the pyramid, it is broken up into 6 different food groups which should be mixed into the diet every day. Serving sizes are not explicitly mentioned because they are different for all ages. The food groups are divided into sections of different widths to represent the food groups need to be consumed at different ratios. The stair steps on the side remind us that physical activity is a very important component of living a healthy life as well and should be considered daily along with the food groups. So how do children learn to enjoy the foods they eat? Let's take a look. Naturally, children like foods that taste good to them. Studies which have focused on which characteristics of food children prefer best have found that children lean towards energy-dense foods. Energy-dense foods are foods high in sugar, salt, and fats. A study which examined the facial expressions of infants learned that at birth, infants prefer the basic taste of sweet best. This is mostly because of biological factors that mother's milk contains natural sugars, and milk is the first source of food for infants. The study has also found by introducing new flavors other than sweetness, at 6 months of age, an infant's preference can diverge away from sweetness towards other foods. From this study, we can gain that by introducing new foods to children can help increase food preferences other than sweetness. Children's food preferences are also influenced by their parents or other influential people in their lives. A study focusing on children's food environments and their eating habits found that a child's dietary habits and food preferences are developed through their surroundings. Social environments have a huge impact on dietary intake for everyone, not just children. This food preference has been found to increase when children witness their parents enjoying foods. This places a lot of emphasis on the importance of parents to be good role models to their children. Children are always watching and mimicking their parents' habits. Children can acquire similar habits of their parents. Children will set standards of expectations based on how their parents eat. If a child observes a parent enjoying fast food on a regular basis, their children will establish a standard that consuming fast food on a regular basis is the norm. However, if a child observes their parents enjoying healthy foods such as fruits, vegetables, dairy, and whole grains on a regular basis, their children will establish a standard that are the norm and will be more likely to eat these foods. The importance of introducing healthy food options in children is best because studies have shown that eating habits developed as a child can carry over into adolescence and adulthood. Another important factor when encouraging healthy dietary habits is that younger children are more easily influenced by parents' dietary habits than adolescents. This is because adolescents have already developed their eating habits and are more reluctant to change. Again, this is why it is so critical to begin introducing healthy habits in children and to continue to build on these habits as children grow. As children grow up, they become more dependent, which means the responsibility of feeding children is transferred from the parents to the child themselves. Once the adolescent years arrive, adolescents begin to only rely on their parents to supply the food for them to eat at their personal convenience. In a study focusing in on the home environment and adolescent food intake, found that the food available in the home is going to influence what adolescents eat. Increasing the availability of fruits, vegetables, and dairy products in the home will increase the consumption of these foods in children's diets. The study also found that availability of energy-dense foods, those foods high in sugar, fat, and salt, decrease the consumption of healthy foods in the home. The reasoning being is that when children are given the choice between healthy foods and energy-dense foods, they will reach for foods which appeal to them more, thus the energy-dense foods. Let's take a look at some of the negative and positive consequences of parents encouraging healthy dietary habits in children. A lack of encouraging healthy habits in a child can lead a child to not understanding the importance of consuming healthy foods. It can also lead to some negative health consequences such as the risk of childhood obesity or obesity as an adult, increased risk of cancer, and many lifelong health risks such as high blood pressure, cholesterol, and type 2 diabetes. By encouraging healthy habits, it can also lead to positive outcomes such as children gaining awareness of healthy food options, consuming healthy food options, meeting or becoming closer to those recommended daily intakes, and building healthy habits which can carry over into adulthood. Childhood obesity is a huge concern in the public health sector. Childhood obesity cannot be linked to one main factor, but has been linked to several possible factors in a child's life. These factors include behavioral factors, environmental factors, and genetic factors. Behavioral factors would include a child having excess energy intake or eating more calories than burning, and sedentary behavior, or a lack of physical activity. Excess energy intake can come from large portion sizes, meals away from home, added sugar, and snacking on energy-dense foods. As technology moves forward, our daily routines are beginning to become more sedentary. Sedentary activity is beginning to replace physical activity, which also lowers metabolic rates in children. It's important to keep children physically active to burn off those calories being consumed and encourage children to be active in their lives. Environmental factors can be a large contributor to our eating patterns as well. Similar to parent influences, the home environment holds a big impact to childhood obesity. Parents are the best role models for their children living a healthy life, and children are going to best develop their habits from their parents. Also, awareness of childhood obesity has encouraged changes in other environmental surroundings, such as childcare, schools, and community recreation options. Childcare and schools are offering better meal options for children and making an effort to increase the amount of daily physical activity. Communities are promoting recreation activities by improving access to bike paths, sidewalks, and parks. In recent years, it has been thought that genetic factors contribute to an individual's ability to gain and lose weight, but this has found to play a minor role in the recent increase in childhood obesity. The lifelong impacts and health complications of childhood obesity are a primary concern. Health complications which are typically associated with adults are beginning to show up in children. Complications include type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. Other diseases are at higher risk in obese children, such as asthma and sleeping disorders. If no health consequences arise during childhood, childhood obesity has been found to accelerate the development of cardiovascular diseases such as heart attacks and high blood pressure, and metabolic diseases such as diabetes earlier in adulthood. Research is beginning to question if children's dietary habits can help reduce the risk of cancer later in life. Currently, there is not a lot of research available due to the duration of time required for such a study. A study done from 1937 to 1939 on family diet and health did a 60-year follow-up of the same participants. Researchers looked at the food and vegetable consumption of the participants as children with the same number of participants who had acquired cancer 60 years later. This study found a low cancer association in adults with high fruit consumption during childhood. The reasoning is thought to be attributed to the antioxidants in fruits, which are thought to prevent cancerous cells. Antioxidants help slow or prevent oxidation in cells. Oxidation of cells can lead to poor immune function, health diseases, and cancer. Red and purple fruits contain the highest amounts of antioxidants and are encouraged for people to eat because of their antioxidant levels. Children's dietary needs change by age and sex of the child. This graph illustrates the recommended servings for children according to the American Dietetics Association. It is important for parents to understand the nutritional requirements of their children for their child's growth and development, because requirements do change as children grow up. At ages 2 to 3 years, it is important to note that both boys and girls require the same amount of requirements for each food group. As children grow up, the nutritional requirements that stay the same for both boys and girls are milk and dairy, fruits, oils, and extra calories. However, the requirements do change for boys and girls at 4 to 8 and older for the calorie intake, lean meats, vegetables, and grains. The requirements are typically a half to 1 serving size higher for boys in this category. It is important for the children to reach these recommended serving sizes. The serving sizes recommended are there to provide adequate energy and nutrients critical to the child's growth and development. If the daily requirements are not met regularly, health complications such as growth retardation, anemia from iron deficiencies, poor retention of school material, and an increased risk of developing chronic diseases during adulthood can occur. The government does try to help lower these risks by requiring foods to be fortified or enriched. A fortified food, like low-fat milk, means that vitamins A and D, which get lost when the fat is removed during processing, have to be replaced by law before reaching the consumer. An enriched food, like table salt, has added iodine to help consumers meet their dietary guidelines. The quality of children's diet can be measured by the 2005 Healthy Eating Index. The index is divided into 12 different categories such as fruit, vegetables, meat and beans, and milk. Every category is given a maximum score, which means it meets the 2005 dietary guidelines for Americans. The higher the individual score reflects a score closer to the guidelines. A high score can be given for a high intake in foods such as fruits, vegetables, grains, meat and beans, milk, and oil, and a low intake in saturated fats, sodium, and extra calories. This graph was compiled in 2003-2004 for children ages 2 to 17. Displayed are the averages of the different age groups. The first important category to look at is the total score for all age groups. This score is barely meeting half of the maximum score for the age groups. This shows the need of improvement in children's diets all around. The maximum score was reached in 2 to 5-year-olds for total fruit and milk, and for all age groups, the maximum score was reached for total grains. Fruit and milk consumption remain above half the maximum score for all age groups. This may be attributed to the fact that both fruit and milk are naturally sweet and children have a higher preference for these foods. Thus, they are more willing to eat these foods. Total vegetable consumption is almost at half the maximum score for every age group, but its subgroup of dark green and orange vegetables have a score below 1 out of the 5 points given. Whole grain consumption has similar low score for all age groups as well. Since these two categories are so low, a possible solution could be to continually expose children to these foods to encourage a preference. It has been found that it can take up to 8 to 10 exposures of a food before a child likes it. Another category where improvement could be made is saturated fats, sodium, and extra calories. These numbers are lower than the half of the maximum score, which means that children are eating too much of these foods. To increase these scores, children need to lower their intake of saturated fats, sodium, and extra calories. After reviewing several research articles on after-school cooking, I reached an overall conclusion that it takes more effort than informing children and adolescents about making healthy food choices for children to actually make them. Education is beneficial to establishing awareness about the variety of fruits and vegetables, different sources of whole grains, and the nutritional benefits to our bodies. The understanding that children can gain from nutrition education does not make a child enjoy healthy foods any more than they did before. While children may understand the health consequences from not eating healthy foods, the consequences are way too far away for most children to care about. Children are going to choose foods which taste best to them no matter the nutritional value. For nutritional education to be applied, the concepts need to be welcomed into the home and reinforced by all family members, especially parents. At home, how can a child be actively involved in meal planning and preparation? Since education and nutritional awareness is not enough, a hands-on approach from parents is important to building healthy dietary habits. Actively engaging children to be a part of the food they eat through grocery shopping, meal planning, food preparation, and growing a garden will apply the nutritional education they have learned about in school. To expand on the different activities, I will show how at different age groups these activities can be applied. Getting children involved will create a personal ownership in their food because they will be a part of the process of getting the food to the table. Grocery shopping and food preparation are great ways for children ages 4 to 6 to be involved in the kitchen. While taking a 4 to 6-year-old to the grocery store is not the most ideal situation, it is unavoidable at times. The produce section of the grocery store is a great hands-on learning environment for this age group. While picking up the produce of the week, parents can point out produce of different colors and begin identifying the names of the produce. Also, as produce is being added to the cart, children can practice their counting skills. Simple food preparation skills can also be completed in the kitchen. Such skills can include gathering ingredients from the pantry, adding pre-measured ingredients, stirring batter, setting the table, and much more. Once again, grocery shopping with children is not the most ideal situation, but the grocery store is a great way for children ages 7 to 11 to learn about different food options. 7 to 11-year-olds would be great help when at the grocery store. They can speed up the shopping by having their own section of the grocery list, which they are responsible for gathering. By having them help acquire the list, they are able to see all the different food choices for one item and where they are located in the grocery store. Another great opportunity for this age group is to introduce them to the different types of grocery markets, such as cooperatives, ethnic markets, and farmers markets. All the diversity of food options will allow children to broaden their food knowledge and expand on their food preferences. Letting 7 to 11-year-olds help in meal planning by letting them pick a main dish and or side dish that they can enjoy. By letting them pick these entrees, it will give the children a sense of ownership in the meal and will be more likely to eat the meal because they picked it. They can also help in the preparation of the meal. Start by introducing utensils like vegetable peelers, can openers, paring knives, and measuring ingredients. As they continue to develop these basic skills, allow them to cook on the stove with parent supervision. At 12 years old and older, children can start planning a meal at least one night a week. Encouraging adolescents to plan a meal for the family is a great skill for them to develop. It teaches them responsibility by creating a grocery list to make sure that they have all the ingredients and planning ahead to remember things like pulling frozen food out to thaw and becoming self-efficient by cooking for themselves. It also gives them the freedom to try new recipes which are appealing to them. When preparing meals themselves, it will help children to understand how different ingredients interact together to develop flavor combinations. As children grow and become more familiar with the kitchen, encourage adolescents to be creative and create their own adjustments to old recipes. Food preparation will help children develop lifelong cooking skills. It is also a great way for busy parents to have their child help out because the children can do some of the prep work before parents get home. Growing a garden is a great opportunity to create awareness about different types of fresh herbs and produce. A garden can help show the versatility of herbs and produce because having these foods on hand will make you want to discover creative ways to utilize these products. Gardens also allow parents to demonstrate to children where our foods come from, what fresh off-the-stem produce tastes like, and problem-solving skills on how to make the food grow. Family meals are an excellent resource to utilize hands-on activities such as grocery shopping, meal planning, and food preparation. A study done by the University of Minnesota called Project Eat and similar studies have researched the benefits of family meals. One thing that they have found is that meal patterns gained in adolescent years have been proven to carry over into adulthood. The study also looked into how nutrition intake changes with the number of meals children eat at home. The study found as meals increase, so does the consumption of fruits, vegetables, and less soft drinks. For nutrient intakes, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and fiber intakes also increase. While the consumption of these foods do increase with the increase of family meals still are lacking in certain areas. At 7 or more recorded family meals a week, the dietary guidelines followed by my pyramid were still not met for fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and calcium-rich foods. And for nutrient intake, calcium, magnesium, potassium, vitamin E, and fiber were also not meeting daily requirements. Making a more conscious effort to have family meals, purchase and serve fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and low-fat milk at mealtime could help meet these recommendations. In summary, parents' eating habits will be mimicked by their children, so healthy habits in the home are the best practice. Start encouraging healthy habits in young children because eating habits become more permanent as the children grow. Actively engage children through grocery shopping, meal planning, food preparation,